Hello there and welcome to episode 10 of Colonization Project. Right now we are launching Pathfinder on its second flight to the Minmus Orbital Outpost, and we are taking up a new crew because if you remember in the last episode we took the crew home because they didn't have any life support, but now we can send them back up because I think we're packing more life support on this. But the main payload that this is carrying is a ginormous solar truss array. A solar truss is sort of that big structure that extends along the length of the ISS, and it has solar arrays on it, and it's a truss structure, so it's a solar truss array. You can sort of see it in the cargo bay right there. And unlike the real one, we are not folding it up. Because that would be kind of hard to do in Kerbal Space Program without robotic parts. And robotic parts, sometimes they work really well, sometimes they don't work at all because sometimes they're like really wobbly, and that's not very good. So, and also we don't really need that much power. Like, just having the single array of solar panels is going to provide us more than enough power to sustain anything on the Minmus Orbital Outpost for the next, I don't know, because we're not doing many energy intensive tasks on the space station. All we're doing is running all the habitation units, the life support, recyclers, and the science labs, of course. But other than that, we're not really doing anything that requires a huge amount of energy, like starting up a fusion reactor, which we may do in the future, and I'm not sure if building vessels in orbit counts as... I'm not sure if that drains electricity. But we're not doing any of those. We're not running any fusion reactors that I know of on the space station. I mean, I don't know, maybe maybe Bob Kerman and in the science lab when we left him up there, maybe he created like a fusion reactor. I'm not sure. And I also don't think we're constructing anything in orbit because, well, we don't really have any orbital construction docks. We could send one up, but it would be extraordinarily inefficient to do that because instead of launching everything out to Minimus, launching all the material kits and specialized parts which you need to construct vessels, instead of doing that and sending them all the way out to Minmus, why don't we just repurpose Space Lab into a orbital dock, because because we don't have any resources we can't produce any materials on the surface of Minmus. It's way more expensive to send them out there, build it there, send it back, than it is to just build it there. And there is Kerbin orbit, if I wasn't clear, which I probably wasn't. Another thing to notice is that this is not just an ordinary space shuttle mission to the Minmus Orbital Outpost. We are carrying 3 tourists to the International Space Station. No, this is the Minmus Orbital Outpost, not the International Space Station. And yeah, they're going to stay up there for a couple of days, and then we're going to send another space shuttle. Yes, you heard that right. We are building another space shuttle in this episode. We are sending that space shuttle to go and get the crew and also bring up some life support, I believe. Right now, you can see we just docked the solar truss array, and we can now focus on the main part of the mission, which is docking the orbiter to the space station. I really need to put some extra tanks on this, because we are running out of fuel. We do not have any. Actually, we have plenty of liquid fuel and oxidizer, but we are running really low on model propellant. And I think I dock as soon as we run out of model propellant. So I try to do this as efficiently as possible in order to conserve model propellant. We have loads of model propellant on the space station, but we can't transfer the fuel from the space station to the orbiter if they're not docked. So yeah, we have to do this very efficiently. Eventually we will get to the point where fuel isn't really a problem with these orbiters, but that is not now. That won't be for, I believe, until episode 12 or episode 13 is when that will happen. Because then instead of using those OMS engines, OMS stands for Orbital Maneuvering System, those two little engines on the top, instead of using those, we're going to be using a pair of smaller engines. It's going to eventually use Terrier engines, but then we're going to upgrade it to use NERVAs, because those are very efficient. And, nuclear engines are pretty cool because they are nuclear powered, and that's always cool. Yeah, I haven't gotten to the point in recording where I have launched a nuclear powered shuttle. It will happen though. It will happen. And if you're wondering why use a nuclear engine if it's on a crewed spacecraft and it's going to be pointing them at the space station, nuclear engines are not radioactive. I'm probably going to say this many, many times throughout this series because we will be using a lot of nuclear engines. But nuclear engines are not radioactive, mostly at all. And if your solid core nuclear engine, like the NERVA, the stock NERVA is a solid core fission nuclear powered engine. And what that means is that you take a propellant. Real life uses liquid hydrogen. They actually tested a few NERVAs in real life. They were supposed to be used on. They could have been used to extend the Apollo program to Mars, I believe, but that never happened. And they tested them, and if you haven't noticed by now, there is not a giant nuclear rainstorm over that area. Yeah, I believe it was somewhere in Utah. It was a big desert in Utah, I believe. They tested a nuclear engine there. There's no nuclear rain cloud over that area now. And that's because all you do in a nuclear engine is take propellant like liquid hydrogen, or in Kerbal Space Program, liquid fuel. You pass that over a nuclear reactor. In this case, you're passing it over a nuclear reactor that is in a solid state. Other reactor designs use liquid states or gas states. Those are radioactive because then you're actually spewing out bits of the reactor out the back. And that's pretty radioactive. The open cycle gas core engine it's very radioactive. You do not want to use it anywhere near your home world because then you're going to have radioactive waste in orbit for the next couple million years. And but NERVAs are in a solid state, so you're just passing the propellant over the reactor, and that's not very so I'm going to start this from the beginning again. So a The NERVA in stock KSP works by having a nuclear reactor, a solid core nuclear reactor, and then you take liquid fuel, pass it over the reactor. The liquid fuel gets heated up really, really hot, and then the reactor, and then the propellant gets expelled out the back. And this produces much higher temperatures than a regular rocket engine would, which means that basically means that it's way more efficient, which is why we put a nuclear reactor in space. And you're not spewing out bits of the reactor, so it's very simple actually. There's no radioactive waste at all in a solid core nuclear engine. I've talked through that entire mission talking about nuclear engines, although it is a very interesting topic, and we will get to more advanced engines, nuclear engines, in the future of the series, like nuclear saltwater engines, open cycle gas core engines, nuclear light bulbs, liquid core engines, and quite possibly many more until we dive into fusion tech, which, it's going to be a whole different story. But we just launched the life support module for the space station, and that just carries a bunch of supplies. And now what we're doing is launching our second space shuttle. This space shuttle's name is Explorer, and we are taking it out to take the 3 tourists home, back to Kerbin, because that's just extra life support that we would be using otherwise, so might as well just return them home. And what better way to do that than to make a second shuttle? And also, we get to see 2 shuttles docked to the Minmus Orbital Outpost at once. I probably will change the name of the Minmus Orbital Outpost in the future for reasons like that, because saying Minmus Orbital Outpost, it's kinda harder than saying Space Lab. So I probably will rename the Minmus Orbital Outpost to something else in the future, so it's a lot easier to say. But we're taking it out to Minmus, as you may be able to guess. And the crew of this is very simple. We only have 2 crew members, Jebediah Kerman and Sergei Kerman. Sergei Kerman is our scout. I'm not sure why I brought him along, but he's on the mission anyway. Probably because I decided I wanted to give him the chance to go to Minmus, because I don't think he has been to any place outside of Kerbin orbit before. And I mean, we're taking a 7-seat shuttle out there. We might as well just pack a bit of extra life support and we can get a lot of our crew members' experience up that way, which means we can I'm actually not sure what the different levels of pilot. The higher the level of pilot is, the more little buttons on the side that help you control the vehicle's attitude. More leveled up a scientist is, the faster he researches data, he or she. And then I'm not sure what an engineer does. It's probably to do with USI colonization, because probably the more skilled your engineer is, the faster he produces things. which will be helpful because if we want to be constructing massive things in orbit, we should probably a skilled engineer would probably produce things faster than an unskilled one. I could be wrong, so don't set up your USI colonization base based off of that fact, because I'm probably wrong. But anyways, we have arrived at the Minmus Orbital Outpost. I'm probably going to switch names of Minmus Orbital Outpost and Space Lab. Unless, of course, we start constructing things in orbit, and if that's the case, then I may start calling it something else. I'm not sure what I would call it then, because Space Lab doesn't really sound right for a orbital construction dock. It just kind of doesn't, because we're not researching anything on it now. We would be building things on it. But I decided that it was a waste of a shuttle mission if we weren't going to bring along something in that ginormous cargo bay. So we have this small little utility module that I just decided to bring along. We can expand the station a bit more. We can... Yeah, it's just free weight because we're sending the shuttle up there anyway. We might as well send along a payload with it. Like, that's why I like shuttles so much, because you can do so many things at once with them. Like, rescue mission, done. Like, you can do rescue missions, expand your base, and return Kerbals home all in one mission, although we aren't rescuing any. We are not rescuing any Kerbals with this mission. We will eventually start rescuing Kerbals around Minmus. But that won't be with the Space Shuttle. It will be with a new orbital tug. Although, despite the fact that we already built an orbital tug, and it kind of failed, because as soon as the orbital tug came online, we had the Endurance, which is our SSTO, which kind of made it obsolete. But we don't have an SSTO on Minmus, so I decided, why not have an orbital tug for Minmus? And it proves to be quite helpful as I come from the future. I still have probably 2-3 episodes more of I have a lot of unedited footage. Is what I'm trying to say. But this little crew transfer vehicle that we left up here a while ago, it's kind of obsolete because we now have the shuttle, and also, yeah, we have the space shuttles now, and the crew size is getting so large that we can't transport them all home in this little command pod. So we're just deorbiting it, of course, after we drain all the liquid fuel and oxidizer, because that's just more mass that we save. If you want to start constructing things in orbit, like I've said previously many times. But after we drain a lot of the science and other things like fuel, we deorbit it because it's not really useful anymore. But it was at this point right here that I remembered that I forgot the science after I undocked. So just have to perform all this. Just have to bring home the science real quick. And actually head back home this time yeah, yeah, commentary isn't going well so far, but oh well. I am 19 minutes and 40 seconds into the video. I am not stopping here because I only have 6 minutes left. Actually, wait, no, it's closer to 7 minutes left of yeah, I'm over halfway through the video. I do not want to stop here just because it wasn't going well for a second. Also, as you can see, we go zooming past the Minmus Orbital Outpost on our escape burn. And we can now try and bring Explorer home for the first time. Hopefully this one will go better. Foreshadowing. It will not go better than the last time. If you remember, last time we tried to land the shuttle, we ended up stalling the orbiter and ended up coming short of the Space Center. It doesn't happen this time though, and I will leave it to the footage to show you what happens this time. I believe this time. Yeah. But re-entry goes well. We can see we get a nice cinematic shot of the orbiter re-entering. And we can just once again, not very much to talk about here. We're just re-entering the space shuttle. The only thing I hate about Minmus is that it's in a really weird inclined orbit, which causes us to do things like this. These massively expensive inclination changes. Could we have just waited in orbit? Yes. Do they have enough life support for that? No. So we try to get as close to the Space Center as possible, and I plotted out the maneuver using our remaining fuel, and I was just like, you know what? This will work out fine because, it'll work out fine because after this we can just use aerodynamic drag to direct it, because if you didn't know, the space shuttle can glide, like a brick that is, and we can use the lifting surface of the space shuttle to direct our course over the Space Center, which is what I tried to do here. You can see that I started out re-entering it like a normal person would, and then I started veering to the left, or the right. Yeah, we start veering to the right, and then I realized we don't have enough electric charge. We don't have any monopropellant, so we have no way of controlling our attitude but by using the control surfaces at this very, very high altitude where we don't have enough air. So we end up going into a flat spin at 1 kilometer per second. And we eventually do slow down. It's a very effective way of slowing down, not a very effective way of gauging your landing site accurately. But if we had Ferrum Aerospace Research installed, which is a mod that improves the aerodynamics of Kerbal Space Program. I'm not using it because if we're ever going to be using Starship, it will not work. I mean, it might, but it might not. But if we had Ferrum Aerospace Research, it's Ferrum Aerodynamics Research. I could be wrong though. It's a mod along that name. The shuttle probably would have disintegrated because of the huge amounts of drag we were producing with that. But thankfully, nothing bad happened except for the flat spin, which we did recover, and we can now guide it down into a grassland. Yeah, not on the runway, but we do land it. Another happy landing. And we also unlock electronics, which gives us better antennae, and a couple extra science instruments. But now we are launching a Starship. Because I do want to start building these because they can carry a bit more payload than the shuttle can, and we might use it as a lander, although It's not going to be overpowered, so don't worry. I will limit the flights of this quite considerably because having a fully reusable launch vehicle, it's kind of overpowered in Kerbal Space Program. And in real life too, which is why Starship is a thing. But we're just doing a quick little, I don't know how high we went, probably like a 15-kilometer test flight. Much like the real one, because we want to make sure the landing procedure works. And yeah, we'll be launching a full stack later on, probably in episode 11 or episode 12. I'm not sure yet, but you can see we are doing the belly flop maneuver and the, not sure what you call it, the flip and burn maneuver, or would it be the burn and flip? Because we burn the engines to get the vehicle upright, then we land and flip. I don't know, but it did start it a bit early, but that's not too much of a problem. And we are heading back to the landing site. So yeah, this will be the end of the episode. This will be the end of the episode. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video after we unlock a experimental propulsion, which gives us ion engines, which will be fun eventually. It will be fun eventually. That'll be the end of the episode. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.